Okay, let's raise that big question then. Has India made a diplomatic error by voting against Lanka on war crimes at the United Nations? That's our talking point tonight. Joining us now, Subramanian Swamy. He is, of course, needs no introduction, but he's taken a tough stand against the LTT in particular and has very strong views on the subject. Also with us, Veera Raghav, our senior editor who looks closely at issues of the South. KC Singh, former diplomat, is joining me, and I'm joined from Madurai by Father Khusboo Raj, who is a Tamil rights activist. So all our panelists joining us, giving us different perspectives. Let me come to you, Dr. Swamy, first. You were saying before I started the program, when we discussed this, you believe this is a monumental blunder.
Yes.
Not just an error, but a monumental blunder committed by the Indian government. Why?
That's right. Well, it has completely destroyed the trust that had been built after India's naval blockade during the course of the war. When the Sri Lankan army was battling the LTT, we assisted the LTT, we assisted the government to fight the LTT by giving up naval blockade. And then after that, we gave a lot of assistance, and there was a feeling that India is acting as an Indian nation, not as a supplicant of the Tamil problem, which was represented by the LTT.
Are you saying forces. India has done this clearly under pressure of the Dravidian parties?
No, India has done it not under the pressure of Dravidian parties, because that pressure was there when the war was going on. It has done, it's a capitulation to the Americans. It has shown ourselves, the SAARC countries have all voted against us, those who are represented there, and it has shown that we care, we don't care for our backyard.
We've done this under American pressure.
Absolutely.
Not under the pressure of the Tamil parties
no, not at all, because at the time 2009, there were Tamil parties also screaming away. We didn't bother. We blockaded for the Sri Lankan Navy. We did it as an abject surrender. We became a junior partner of the Americans, and we have destroyed our independent position.
We've destroyed our independent position. Father Khusboo Raj, your quick response to what you're just hearing from Subramanian Swamy.
I think that India was fully justified in the kind of stand it took today, because without India, Sri Lanka would not have won the kind of victory it achieved. It was because of the kind of logistical support India provided, and as Mr. Subramanian Swamy mentioned, the naval blockade, and also the vast diplomatic resources of India were put on behalf of Sri Lanka to defend it and protect it. So all along, India protected Sri Lanka. India helped Sri Lanka to win this war. But afterwards, Sri Lanka never cared for the concerns of India. Having supported Sri Lanka fully to defeat the LTT, India did expect some kind of a dignified political solution to the Tamils, and Rajapaksa regime was unwilling to do that.
Okay.
And the 13th Amendment, the Tamils are not really so happy to accept that 13th Amendment solution. But Sri Lanka was not even willing to consider that. But had Sri Lanka considered some kind of a political solution, India would have felt at ease to support Sri Lanka. But today that India feels very unease the way Sri Lanka is behaving. And remember, historically, let me put this, historically Sri Lanka has never stood with India in critical times. Take the war with Pakistan on Bangladesh. Sri Lanka did not stand with us. Our war with China, Sri Lanka did not stand with us. I don't think in critical situations historically, Sri Lanka never stood with us. So please, when you say that Sri Lanka is our friendly neighbor, it has stood with us, it is a farce, it is a lie, it is a historical lie. Sri Lanka never stood with us. It deserves the kind of treatment from India.
You're making a very strong comment that Sri Lanka is not a friendly neighbor. Sri Lanka deserved what it got today. KC Singh, your response to that?
Yes.
Rajdeep, I think India has done the right thing, probably for the wrong reasons. And I don't agree with Dr. Swamy, much as I respect him. It's not American pressure. It was essentially domestic pressure coming from DMK. DMK pressure the government could have put up with. But DMK's withdrawal coming at a time when Mamata Banerjee herself was sulking was something they had to take seriously. That's why the initial reaction out of Delhi was not of support. The initial reaction was to say we do not vote on single country resolutions, which is your old mantra. You were repeating that. That is the non-aligned mantra.
So
now the reason you went away from that
Yes.
was reluctantly when the pressure was applied by DMK. But now you look at the outcome. I think a single vote, if we say that the Indian vote be counted as a single vote, is very critical, because 24 means that more than 50% of the membership of the 47-member council has voted affirmatively. I mean, the resolution would have been passed even otherwise because of abstentions.
Right.
But if you didn't even have a simple majority, it would have conveyed a wrong signal. India apparently, let's look at the positives for Sri Lanka. The positives are that this is not a binding resolution.
Yes.
The nomenclature which has been given to the resolution is promoting reconciliation and accountability. Now, India is also apparently, what is being learnt is that India has insisted that the last paragraph of the resolution, which talks about need to consult Sri Lanka in the implementation and operate through consensus,
yes,
has softened the impact of the resolution. Therefore, Sri Lanka should be grateful to that extent.
Okay.
But on the other side,
yes,
on the other side, we must remember that Sri Lanka since 2009, in fact, in 2009, it has given assurances not only to India, but to the international community in Geneva itself, when the last time the Council discussed it. And it's not abided by that. President Rajapaksa has not been able to graduate from a Churchillian, successful wartime leader to a statesman. They've been dragging their feet. Time and again, he has said he has been ducking the 13th Amendment.
You made important points. Veera Raghav, there are two views being expressed. Subramanian Swamy saying India has done this under US pressure. KC Singh suggesting that India has kept its interests and under pressure of Dravida parties has taken this decision. Was this decision taken under pressure of the allies, of the coalition partners? Would the DMK really have walked out if India had not voted against Sri Lanka on this issue?
The important point that Subramanian Swamy is making is that in 2009, when Prabhakaran was eliminated by the Sri Lankan forces, you have the DMK, which was part of the UPA. You have not had this kind of pressure. Everybody in Delhi, in Chennai, know that this is hardline posturing. There are people who are deeply committed to the cause, but to say that Tamil Nadu's political forces are going to walk out of an alliance is a little far-fetched. But having said that, Rajdeep, there is a political reality in Chennai, a diplomatic reality in New Delhi, and a human rights reality in Colombo. Colombo, according to independent observers, seems to have not moved forward since 2009 in terms of a political settlement, and hence the international pressure grows on Colombo.
Dr. Swamy, you will be seen today as an apologist for Sri Lanka, because the fact is Sri Lanka has failed in both rehabilitation and moving forward towards a political settlement. I mean, President Rajapaksa has much to answer for.
Well, I don't want to be an apologist for the LTTE. And this whole thing being put in ethnic terms.
How do you become an apologist for LTT if today you vote against Sri Lanka? Are you saying that if you vote against Sri Lanka, we become apologists for the LTT?
If I say that this resolution is not in India's national interest, doesn't mean I become an apologist for the Sri Lankans, or Mr. Rajapaksa. The issue is this, that we are today saying that the Sri Lankan army conducted these human rights excesses. Who was the commander-in-chief? Fonseca. Who was Fonseca? Later on, he was the presidential candidate of the pro-LTT parties. And suddenly you say everything Rajapaksa is responsible. Fonseca is now an angel. This is the kind of politics which we should avoid. We are head of the SAARC in a sense, in a de facto sense. The SAARC countries have deserted you. You have deserted Sri Lanka.
Does that not put more pressure on India to ensure there is a political settlement? How else do you do it?
The way is to do it is to the SAARC or through bilateral. The SM Krishna went in February. He came back and made a very rosy statement.
No, but you're essentially saying today's Indian position is essentially a pro-LTT position. What you're saying, even though the LTT is finished in the eyes of most people, you believe India today has taken a stand which is absolving the LTT itself.
But it's easy to say that. United States today has a man called Rudra Kumar who is heading an independent state of Elam, and the United States has not asked him to shut it down. And let me tell you also, the United States has just now, the State Department has come out with a human rights report on India, where they say large extrajudicial killings are taking place in Kashmir, in Chhattisgarh and in Manipur, and that this must be taken cognizance of by the international community.
I'm going to come back to that, whether this will embarrass India when it comes to a Kashmir tomorrow. But Father Gasparaj, respond to that. As a Tamil rights activist, you and others will be accused of not making enough distinctions between LTT and Tamils who've been seen sympathetic of the LTT and those who have genuinely suffered from war crimes. And that important distinction is also not made in this UN resolution. The distinction doesn't come through very clearly. It almost seems as if India is saying the Sri Lankan army has committed war crimes, period.
Rajdeep, we were never apologists for LTT. Please, I would like to reiterate, we were never apologists for LTT. We only said the fundamental or root cause of the problem is a Sinhala chauvinistic politics, which believes in tyranny by the majority, which systematically denied rights to Tamils, and it disintegrated the Tamils. It made them into a non-nation. They had their own identity, their own culture, their own history. They are today no people. They are no people. That's a tragedy that has happened to them. Now, so we were never apologists to the LTT. Please remember. But we agreed, though LTT was bad, the military strength of the LTT was finally the bargaining power left with the Tamils for a decent political solution. Please remember this. A lot of Tamils like us, we said, please don't destroy the LTT completely, because once the LTT is gone, the Sri Lankan government will never bother even to talk about a political solution to Tamil.
Hold on, Father. Veeranaga wants to respond to you.
Is it not true that the diaspora, people like you sitting in Tamil Nadu, aren't the real ones who are suffering out there? Your confrontation only allows and makes Colombo harden its stand, and hence there is no process of moving forward. The diaspora must be held responsible for a propaganda war against Colombo since 2009. I'm not saying that Colombo has succeeded in the reconciliation process, but you all aren't finding a solution.
Veeranaga, I have great respect for you. But remember, we support the TNA. Please fill the vacuum, political vacuum. Move forward on the land rights of the Tamil. Move forward on the demilitarization of the northeastern parts of Sri Lanka. Move forward on a decent political solution. We are not saying that the LTT has to come back. We are only saying we are in fact supporting the TNA to fill the political vacuum. But if you say that,
point taken, Father. Subramanian Swamy also wants to respond. Quick response.
The TNA's leader is General Fonseca,
yes,
who in fact is who took these got these photographs taken, and at the right moment, he has.
No, but let's be honest. There have been serious war crimes in Lanka. Let's not get away. There have been war crimes in Lanka, and Tamils have been seen as second-class citizens.
In a war against,
they've been seen as second-class citizens.
In a war against terrorists. In fact, in a war. What happened in Dresden and what happened in Hiroshima, what happened in Nagasaki, they are also war crimes.
Civilians have been treated as second-class citizens.
Well, of course they have been. But the question is, you're going to do it through this resolution where you're going to request the Sri Lankans to do something? What does this resolution end up doing except to spoil all your relations with your neighbors?
Spoil your relations with your neighbors. KC Singh, there's a point which has been made earlier that maybe this will become a precedent. You said India always opposed country-specific resolutions. It was part of our principle of non-alignment. Today, by siding with a resolution which is country-specific, are we running the risk that, God forbid, Pakistan moves a resolution against Kashmir? Sri Lanka has every right today to vote against India and embarrass India further.
Rajdeep, 2-3 points quickly. Firstly, in India's explanation vote as well as the resolution, the focus is on the LLRC, the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission of Sri Lanka. All that we are saying is, let them implement what their own commission has said. Therefore, we have staved off an international inquiry. In a sense, we are saving Sri Lanka from that.
Right.
But Sri Lanka cannot have their own inquiry commission report sitting on a table and not implement it. Now, coming to India, would you rather be in the corner, the countries which have voted against it, which consists of Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, China, Russia, Ecuador, countries like this, or would you rather be with countries which are democratic, which are open? We are competing with China in the future of an Asia and the global scenario. We must be seen as siding with democratic forces, with openness, with accountability. And therefore, we have to start moving away. What is non-aligned movement at the moment?
Right.
It's being chaired by Egypt, which voted against the resolution. Does Egypt have an accountable government at the moment? We don't know what's going to emerge there. Next chair is Iran. Last chair was Cuba. The non-line movement has been hijacked. It is no longer. We have to start functioning as a pole, as China does, as Russia does. Stand on your own feet and vote according to your principles. Not always.
So you're saying India has voted on principles. You're saying India has voted on principles
and real politics.
But there will be others who will say that
principles and real.
But others who will say we should have done it on real politics, not on principle, but on real politics. That it was in our political interest to have a friendly Sri Lanka. We've antagonized Sri Lanka.
In 2009, no, just a minute. In 2009, we voted on the basis of real politics, gave Sri Lanka 3 years. Now, to just contradict what Dr. Swamy is saying, if we were siding with LTTE, we would have gone for a resolution in 2009. We didn't. We helped Sri Lanka. But if after giving them 3 years, you are seeing your leverage is zero, they're not listening to you, they're taking you for a ride, then you go along with the international community and in fact interpose yourself between...
It is consistent with my position that this has got nothing to do with the Tamils, it has got nothing to do with anything else, except that time the Americans were for the conduct of the war, we were the Americans. Today the Americans are
Dr. Swamy, you've seen what has happened in Parliament, you've got parties like the DMK,
they have done
virtually every Tamil party has expressed solidarity on this issue. You are an isolated voice in that sense.
I don't know about the isolated. I have been addressing meetings in Tamil Nadu, they are all very large, maybe you don't cover it. But that's a different matter.
Veera Raghav, is it true? Is Dr. Swamy a marginal voice, or does he represent the mainstream voice, and voices like Kaspar Raj are the marginal voices? What is the predominant sentiment today in Tamil Nadu on this issue?
Both Dr. Swamy and Father Kaspar Raj are marginal voices in Tamil Nadu. The general voice is not about the Sri Lankan Tamil issue, but you cannot ignore it as a large political force. It is about grandstanding. But at the end of the day, just look at the resolution today, Rajdeep. It's watered down terribly.
That's right. It says that it will be that any decision will be taken in consultation and with the concurrence of the government of Sri Lanka.
That's right. And also, just to contradict Dr. Swamy's point about the US, it is a well-known fact, and Colombo has been maintaining that in the last stages of the war, it was India which backed it and not so much the Western powers. And the genesis of the Western powers problem with Colombo starts from the last stages of the war.
Okay. On that point, Dr. Swamy, I know that you've got your strong reservations about what India has done, but appreciate your joining us. Subramanian Swamy, Veera Raghav, KC Singh, Father Kaspar Raj. It's been a day when India has taken a tough stand. Some believe a stand based on principle. There'll be others who believe real politique should have prevailed over principle. We leave it for you to judge whether we've done it right or wrong.
An Indian nation, not as a supplicant of the Tamil problem, which was represented by the LTT.
Are you saying forces. India has done this clearly under pressure of the Dravidian parties?
No, India has done it not under the pressure of Dravidian parties, because that pressure was there when the war was going on. It has done, it's a capitulation to the Americans. It has shown ourselves, the SAARC countries have all voted against us, those who are represented there, and it has shown that we care, we don't care for our backyard.
We've done this under American pressure,
absolutely,
not under the pressure of the Tamil parties.
No, not at all, because at the time 2009, there were Tamil parties also screaming away. We didn't bother. We blockaded for the
senior editor who looks closely at issues of the South. KC Singh, former diplomat, is joining me, and I'm joined from Madurai by Father Kaspar Raj, who is a Tamil rights activist. So all our panelists joining us, giving us different perspectives. Let me come to you, Dr. Swamy, first. You were saying before I started the program, when we discussed this, you believe this is a monumental blunder, not just an error, but a monumental blunder committed by the Indian government. Why?
That's right. Well, it has complete.
Okay, let's raise that big question then. Has India made a diplomatic error by voting against Lanka on war crimes at the United Nations? That's our talking point tonight. Joining us now, Subramanian Swamy. He is, of course, needs no introduction, but he's taken a tough stand against the LTT in particular and has very strong views on the subject. Also with us, Veera Raghav,
completely destroyed the trust that had been built after India's naval blockade during the course of the war, when the Sri Lankan army was battling the LTT. We assisted the LTT, we assisted the government to fight the LTT by giving up naval blockade. And then after that, we gave a lot of assistance, and there was a feeling that India is acting as an